Good afternoon. Hi, this is Michele Pischea, and I'm going to be joined by Dr. Michael Ryce shortly here. We welcome you to the second hour of Mind Shifter Radio. Today is Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call the number and put up a hand, I will turn on your microphone and we'll be in conversation. So I just turned on area code 520. Who do we have and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Audrey from Tucson, Arizona.
Hi,
Welcome,
Audrey,
young lady.
from Tucson, Arizona.
Hi. How's everybody?
We're rocking. How about you, Audrey? We haven't heard your voice in a while.
Oh, that's because life quality of my life has just been enhanced because I'm doing my inner work. And I would like to, I have so much gratitude for the work and the offering that has been given through you. And
awesome.
And the workshop and you know, workbook, you know, the pages, the work pages. Because
right, the Reality Management Worksheet.
Yes. And because
it's amazing when you really need them, isn't it?
Oh, I'm telling you, it's almost like the very first time I spoke with you, I had no idea who you were, what you did, but I was told, call this number. I wasn't even aware I was on the radio. And I was the very first. I'm sorry, speak.
I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, and I remember discussing, let's say, the story of what was happening in my childhood, and let's say it was centering out on some of abuse issues. And the very first time, and I had not known about the paper, the worksheet. I didn't even know, and I remember asking something like, could you help me? And you were very gentle with me. And then slowly it morphed, and then I went into the support groups. Of course, I got the book, and I at times I would call the program. But at that very first time, it was like I was like a rose bud, closed up. I had not seen the light, sort of say. And since then, the quality of my life has been enhanced. And I was willing to see differently. And working the tools, and working the tools allowed me to experience opening up like a rose. No, my life isn't perfect now, but like if I'm willing to see it different, if I'm willing to do what I term is my inner work. Although it was at that time when I first encountered it, it was at times very painful. But nevertheless, I persevered and I was willing to see it differently.
Well, let me ask, if I may, because you know your call is very inspirational. And you, as I have been around the sun just a few times. And without getting, down to specific details, and I'm asking this question because I want our audience to know that it's never too late to start. Could you give us some sense
absolutely.
of where you were at chronologically when you started to do this work, when you're the point where you first called the show?
Oh, yeah. I mean, now I'm 82. I don't mind sharing. Soon to be 83. It matters not about age. It matters one is willing to do the work because it is offered. And, the radio show goes by donations, although, it's kind of tight for me now. But it's offered, and it's offered on the, you have the little icon on the, what is it, on the computer? I mean, come on, I started
our
with
website?
a website. I started with a number 2 pencil. So, I mean, all this is freely given because the world, I mean, there seems to be a convergence going on, and it's all purposeful, whether it be financial, social, environmental, and many people are experiencing heartache and issues. And just like if I could share, since I live in Tucson, right in back of me, for some reason, are you there, Michael? Yeah.
I sure am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's my phone. I woke up this morning at 5 o'clock. Something woke me up. And what had happened was someone liked about a $2,000 motorized trike, and the person cut the banister off. And the person who did it brought a power pack tool, a drill, et cetera, and went off with it. And it happened right in back of me, in the house, right in back of me. I live in a mobile,
right,
and it happened right in back of me. So I know the tools that are available, and one of the great tools to me to get from point A, which is turmoil, to C, which is peace, is to use the tools, because many, many people are going through such chaos. But you and I know chaos, there is order and there's peace. And I use the term, we are bio, psycho, social, spiritual man. And we're here for a purpose. And I wanted to just have so much gratitude and thank you so very, very much.
Honored and delighted. So if I remember correctly, you called the first time into the radio show about 2 years ago. Is that correct?
I don't know time. You know, people are on Eastern or Pacific. I'm on eternal time.
Okay. I'm with you on that, young lady.
You know, who was it? Like fake phone or something? If you are, like it says something like it goes, if you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. If you are at peace, you're living in the present. So to answer that I don't know the answer. Possibly 2 years or maybe even more.
Yeah, it seems to me it's been about 2 years.
It's in the archive.
In any event, it's pretty awesome that you picked up the tools and are doing your work. That's just fabulous. And we're glad to be on your team.
Yep.
Audrey, there was something you said earlier about a blooming flower. My favorite quote in terms of healing work from an A&N says, "And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom."
Oh, how beautiful. How absolutely beautiful. So, I mean, if anyone is having any insanity or, like I say, my solar plexus chakra, if it's in turmoil and I want to experience the peace of Galilee, I do my inner work.
Yay.
And I go from insanity to sanity, and I just wish that anyone who is in the now, who is experiencing any chaos, pick up the tools, pick up the book. If you have no money, it's there for the offering.
Yep, that's for true. And anything we can do to take it to every mind, heart, and being on the planet is what we're here for. And I'm just so delighted to hear from you and how you picked up the tools. I know you were in some pretty rough times in those early days, so that's pretty awesome.
Thank you so very, very much. And if anybody is listening, and no matter how little they have to offer, is welcomed to the show. Yes.
All right, dear heart. You have a blessed one. It's nice to hear your voice.
Thank you. Bye for now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, it doesn't get better than that, does it, Michele?
Oh, well, my friend Kidda star, Jerry Ellis, is on the phone, so let's say hi to her from Mexico. Hi, Jerry.
Hey, Michael.
Hey there, young lady. Welcome.
Today. Yeah, thank you. So do you start at 1, Michael, or do you start earlier than that? Or is it
1 till 2 o'clock No, it's the same every day. We actually start Eastern time at noon till 1, and that's Dr. Tim's show, and then 1 till 2 is our show.
Got it. I just wanted to confirm that. Well, I have a special reason I'm calling today. And it has to do with, because I took your teachings, which I learned so much from you about the ancient Aramaic and the forgiveness process and how we remove the data from within ourselves that's causing the reflections in our world. And so I have different friends that I talk to a lot who've read my books, and I think sometimes, I have a friend who's actually listening today, and we were discussing her situation yesterday, and she was going to call in today, and interestingly enough, she woke up without a voice. And I thought, how perfect could that be? Because we have these layers inside of us of old data and old programs that are running. And I wanted to visit with you about that a little bit today and just have a conversation about, I think it's so easy to be, stuck between our own rails, our own path that we've always been on, and our own patterns, our own programs. But to think of going beyond that and clearing those old patterns and going into something that seems harmful, hurtful, scary, and that to believe that it can actually be dissolved. I mean, don't people outside of us do things to us? I mean, that's a big question. And I just love your explanations, and I wanted to call in and bounce it around with you for a few minutes just to help this one friend and others and myself to say, how do we get the courage to go into this? And I know, Michele, you've had tons of experience too, so to go into it and not avoid that, how do we walk into our old programs? And I know the worksheets, I've been referring my friend to the worksheets and the other free processes that you have at your website, which are fabulous. But give us some encouragement. That's why I'm calling today.
Okay. Well, my offering would be that as I've observed it over the last 50 years of working with people, one of the reasons why people don't pick up the tools is because they've done everything they can think of to do, and nothing worked. And they've come to the conclusion that nothing works. And until you can get past that belief in the mind, then, that will be true for somebody. Nothing will work. That's why I was so delighted to hear Audrey's voice, and that at the age of approximately 80, she picked up the tool.
Yeah.
You can hear how enthusiastic the turnaround has been. And to me, that's, there's an old saying that says you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But
Right.
you can make them thirsty. And just,
True.
when people realize that, okay, you've tried everything and nothing worked, but that doesn't mean nothing works. It just means what you've tried hasn't worked. And if people pick up these tools, it doesn't matter what it is. It's changeable because we are energetic beings, and it's all about the energy patterns we hold. And one of the things that makes it, I think, most difficult to really begin the process of working through those things is that it's been going on for so many generations. The patterns that we live out of are not, for the most part, our own. The patterns we tend to live out of were established many, many, many eons ago. You go to the ancient scriptures and they talked about, look to the lives of the fathers, for ours are but a shadow of theirs upon the earth. And most people are quite literally just living in a shadow of what has happened in previous generations. And this work is about learning the skill of being able to access those root energies. And, the genius of this man, Yeshua, 2,000 years ago, to have shown us precisely how to access the hidden parts of one's own mind. One of my favorite quotes comes from Carl Jung, and he says, until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives, and we'll call it fate. And most people live in that belief, well, it's fate, that's just my lot in life. Life is doing it to me, and there's no understanding that, in fact, we're doing it to ourselves. We are creative beings. And when we realize that, then we can start to reach into the recesses of the mind where the creative process has been hidden from us, start to uncover it, and start to change it, and everything changes. That's kind of the bottom line of it.
That's really well said. Do you, and so can we really believe that it's most likely an energetic within inside us that is at cause when something, quote unquote, bad happens in our world?
Well, my take would be that nothing bad has ever happened to anybody, although horrific things occur. Those things that we call bad are the things that we resist and don't want to deal with, that we don't want to look at. And it's kind of like, you've probably heard, and I say it sort of tongue-in-cheek, but I'm 100% serious. The purpose of life is to kick us right square in the limitation, to show us what we're holding on to. Life is about life. And life abhors us destroying ourselves. So if we hold destructive energies, then the purpose of life becomes to hone in on those energies, show them to us directly, and give us the opportunity to forgive, to remove those energetic patterns. And so, but most people have spent so much time hiding from themselves, they have no idea what's going on in their own unconscious. And again, this man, Yeshua, understanding how deeply the mind is impacted by these dynamics, says, I have a purpose. I come to bring you life, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And first you're going to have to face everything in you that's not life and clear it out. You're going to have to forgive it. You're going to have to remove it. And if you refuse to do that, you know, it's kind of like the universe with its purpose and limitation gives us a little tap on the shoulder. And the average person, when they get tapped on the shoulder by life, goes, who is it? Who did that to me? Who's to blame? And, you know, most of us by the age of 4 in this Western culture are very devoutly religious people, even if we're seemingly atheists. And our religion is that one world universal religion of blame. Who did it to us? Whose fault is this?
That's right.
And,
yep.
you know, it's kind of like, you know, another one of my fun tongue-in-cheek lines is if you've been through it 87 different times with 42 different people, sooner or later you got to admit you're the only one that was there every time, and maybe it's got to do with you. And if you don't ever get to that place, then the tap on the shoulder becomes a 2x4, and the 2x4 becomes a 4x8, and then it's a Mack truck. You know, life is going to keep barreling down. It's relentless, and it's going to keep showing us what we're holding on to and trying to blame everybody else for. And once you start to use the tools, it's like you get to de-energize that which is behind bringing those situations to you. And as you de-energize those things just disappear. That's all. They just disappear.
Can you go a little bit
It's called forgiveness in Aramaic. The Greeks turned it backward.
Yes, sorry. So going deeper into that, can you give us a little glimpse into how this can be coming down to us, overshadowing us from our generation? But maybe, you know, there's a whole pile of stuff that's in there. Part of it from our life experience, and part of it we're carrying on generationally.
Right, and our life experiences tend to be based in the generational patterns, tend to be repeating the generational patterns. You know, this goes back about 40 years ago. I don't know, did you ever know Dean Stonier?
I know the name.
He ran a thing called Global Science. And I used to keynote at the Global Science Conference out in Colorado, once or twice in Florida, but it was mostly in Colorado. And one year I was speaking, and one of the other keynote speakers was a fellow named Marcel Vogel, who was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM. And Marcel, you know, the kind of mind Marcel had is, he's the man who, when he worked for IBM, invented the magnetic coating that allows our hard drives to operate. That's the kind of mind he had. At 11, Marcel invented and patented chemical light. You know, if you go to a football game and you buy a light stick, there are 2 glass tubes in it. It's plastic. You bend them, the glass tubes break, the chemicals mix, and it lights up. That was Marcel's invention when he was the age of 11, and his family didn't have the money to patent it, and at 11 he patented it himself.
Wow.
So Marcel brings a device called a Delaware camera to the conference. That's his presentation. His keynote address is about the Delaware camera. And the Delaware camera is a little different than the average camera in that it has a tuning mechanism, much like a radio tuner. It has a tuning mechanism in front of the aperture on the camera, so that when you click the shutter and the shutter opens, if the camera is tuned to a particular frequency and that frequency is present in front of the camera, then what's going to show up on the photographic plate is a picture of whatever the camera's tuned to. For instance, we have an acorn. We train the camera on an acorn, tuned properly, and take a picture, and an acorn doesn't show up on the photographic plate. Guess what shows up on the photographic plate?
An oak tree?
An oak tree.
Wow.
Now, you say, well, wait a minute. Now, how could you take a picture of it? Well, let's think about it. I'm standing in a room right now. I don't see one picture, one moving picture going on around me, but I know there are at least 1,000 moving pictures in this room right now. If I just had the television set on and started turning channels, I could tune into 1,000 different things. I just need a decoding mechanism for them. If I have the decoder, the TV, I can watch all sorts of things happening in this room right now that my senses say aren't there. Well, when you realize it's all energy and frequency,
Right.
exactly the same thing happens with the Delaware camera. So obviously, an acorn has an oak tree in it. I.e., I ask the question to people, well, have you ever planted an acorn and gotten a Volkswagen? Or have you ever planted an acorn and gotten a rose or a cornstalk? No, every time you plant an acorn, you're going to get an oak tree. So obviously, energetically, in the same way that the TV signals are in this room right now for 100 or 1,000 or maybe more different pictures, the vibratory pattern of the oak tree is in the acorn. And so what the Delaware camera does is you tune it, and if that frequency is present, you can take a picture of it. I've seen pictures taken with the Delaware camera of a fetus in utero. And you can see the development at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and 6 months. All four pictures were taken the same day.
Amazing.
And you say, well, how is that possible? Well, obviously, there isn't a little man that every day goes in and instills a program into the developing fetus that says, well, tomorrow you're going to do this and the next day and the next. It's all in there. And obviously, if you can attune to those frequencies, the pattern is there for it. You can decode it and get a look at it through the Delaware camera. My take is that if we refuse, if we are members of the one world universal religion of blending, we walk away from every conflicting situation with a conversation going on about somebody else and how they did it to us. If we refuse to decode the unconscious content of our own minds, then the purpose of life is to send us someone with the decoder. And when that person shows up, you're not going to like it. It's not going to be Dr. Feelgood if you've been hiding something from yourself and somebody shows up to resonate it for you. But life abhors us killing ourselves. And, if we listen to Einstein says this, on such things as matter, we have been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy. Energy whose vibrations have been so low as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. Einstein's really clear. Matter doesn't exist. All the physicists are really clear. Matter doesn't exist. It's a state of organized energy. And so recognizing that, if I am an energetic being, obviously, like anything else, relative to my energy system, there are coherent or uplifting energies, and there are incoherent and destructive energies. If I bring an incoherent energy into my field, wherever it's stored, it's going to interrupt or interfere with the coherence or the organized state of my structure, and my structure is going to start to deteriorate. The deterioration process is called death. Now, incoherent energy, there's a word in the Aramaic language for incoherent energy. The word has been terribly, terribly bastardized by the Greeks, but the word that represents bringing in a disintegrative or an incoherent energy is the word sin. And sin in Aramaic, it's not like the Greek, some terrible, awful, evil thing that you've done. The word sin in Aramaic is simply an archery term. When you fire at the target and you miss the bullseye, the scorekeeper yells sin, you're off the mark. If I bring an energy in that's off the mark, wherever that energy resides in my energy structure, it's going to create a distortion or a deterioration in the structure. So when they said the wages of sin is death, that isn't some kind of theological threat. God's going to get you for your sins. It's just if you put energies into your tissue structure where they don't belong, wherever they're stored, that part of the tissue structure is going to start to fall apart. The wages of sin is death. It's simple physiology. So when we get past the Greek misinterpretations, and it's interesting that the Greek interpretations of the scriptures are usually called translations. I recently came to the realization that I do not believe that the Greeks translated anything out of the Aramaic. The Greeks interpreted from the Aramaic. They call it translation. But when you take the word love, representing, let's say, for instance, the presence of a human life, and then you, quote unquote, pretend you're translating that and you come out with a definition of sexual athletics, obviously that's not a translation, that's an interpretation. And almost every key idea in Aramaic, almost every key word meaning in Aramaic has been interpreted exactly backward by the Greek mind. And, for me, the last 40-plus years around this work has been about restoring those Aramaic definitions, getting back to the truth of who we are and functioning as human beings, because we understand the power of words. You listen to those ancient teachings, and they say the power of life and death is in our words. It's in the tongue. When we start to understand it, and basically when you go back to the Aramaic scriptures, you don't have a religious text. You have a text about physics and physiology, about psychology and genetics. Brilliant. They knew exactly how it worked. And so getting back to decoding those original Aramaic words, to me, is key to being able to actually live as we're designed to live and understand what's happening, what's going on here. So that's my take. That's my offering.
That is really amazing. So I love your explanation, and yes. So having this knowledge is one thing, but if somebody is living with their, some awfulness right face-to-face in their world, how do they begin stepping out of that awfulness and into their own, shoveling out the manure out of the out of the stable?
My original work in the educational field, and the original work that I did in the world, was in the world of electronics with a side study in physics. And in the electronics world, it didn't matter if you were designing or repairing or rebuilding a piece of electronic equipment. It really didn't matter much what your philosophy was. When it came off the other end of the bench, it needed to work. So what I've done over the last 50 years or so with this work is looked to take each tool and put it into a format that's understandable and workable. We've got, I'm not even sure now, 20 or so different workshops, each presenting a different tool. Probably one of the best starting points would be to go to one's app store on their phone, and in the app store type in the words Heartland, one word, Heartland, Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness. When you do that, you'll be looking at there'll be a few apps that will come up, but there'll be one with kind of a glowing red heart. That's our app on how you reach inside your own mind and shovel out the manure, as you kindly say it. And so that's the forgiveness process. Again, that's one of the words that the Greeks turned exactly backward in their interpretation, or I should say misinterpretation, of the ancient scriptures. So forgiveness is a tool with which you collapse the blame game in your mind and get to look directly at what's hiding in your mind. If you download that app, there are two different versions of the Reality Management or Forgiveness Worksheet. Here's how you literally go into your own unconscious and start to clean out the gunk. So there are two different versions of the worksheet there, and there's also a children's game called the Drag-On-Cling-On game for teaching the same tools to kids. So that's a good starting point, is get the app. It's very private. It was specifically designed to be extremely private because people put some pretty sensitive ideas in it when they're doing their inner work. So it's totally, completely private. And then from within the app, if you're doing, the worksheet process, there are links on every page that Jeannie's put there that you can click, and if you have a question, you're, gee, I'm on step 3, I don't understand this, then give us the details of your question, hit send. Jeannie will get that email, and then the next radio show we do, she'll read the email, we'll have a conversation about it and answer the question, and then she'll send a link to the radio show where we answered it, telling you where it was answered, and here's how to, if you can't get on the radio show personally yourself, then you can access the radio show archives and listen to the answer. So there's an easy starting point. Another is you can go to our, it's awesome. I mean, I love to just kind of tongue-in-cheek say to people, yeah, well, we have an app for that.
Right.
And it's pretty cool to have that.
We're so phone-oriented these days, and it is such an easy way for somebody to access information. It's like, okay, without having to pass go and collect $200, it's just, I think it's brilliant.
Exactly. And it costs nothing.
All the work that Jeannie did to put that together is incredible, and I need to remember to remind people of that. Very good.
Yeah. People can also go to our YouTube channel. There are almost 300 videos right now. We're working on increasing the content on our YouTube channel. There are many of the radio shows. We have a gentleman out in Louisiana who generously is working on converting our radio show audio files to video files so they can go on YouTube. So somebody can just go to YouTube and type in Michael Ryce, Michaelryce, and you'll be looking at our channel, and there are hundreds of videos there. You can go to our website. You can actually do the worksheet process live on the website, whyagain.org, and it's about a 20,000-page website. And so you can spend literally years and not get through every page on the website. And basically what we've done is everything we've uncovered, everything we've developed in terms of how to make it work, it's there and available freely. We do have some paid ways to participate. We do have, as Audrey was saying earlier, there is a donate button if people are benefiting from using the tools. While we do it free, we've never figured out how to do it for nothing. It takes money to maintain a 20,000-page website. I don't know how many thousands of dollars we've got in the app now. It's in about its 5th or 6th iteration. And so it does take money to do that, so people are welcome to go to our web page, and down at the bottom there's a donate button. Click it and donate. And or if you'd like to help us by converting some of these files, we've got over 5,000 hours of archives of radio shows that we've got to convert to video files so that we can put them on YouTube. So there's lots of ways to participate, and just going back, I mean, there are 5,000 plus hours of free archives, and basically the conversation we're having today is the conversation we've been having for 14 years now, 5 days a week with people on every aspect of the work. So all of the tools are available through the archives on the radio show, and to get to those, all you have to do is go to our website, whyagain.org. There's a microphone in the middle of the page. Just drill down, hit the microphone and drill down into the archives, and you've got access to thousands and thousands of hours of conversations about how these tools developed, how to use them, and there are at least 20 different reviews in our archives where people have walked through step by step. In fact, I think there might be one or two with you walking through them from a few years ago, walking through the whole worksheet process so people can listen to. Again, there are at least 20 different ones, and each one, because of course different people's problems are different people's questions, what they get into, and so those 20 or so, maybe 25 radio shows, they're basically an hour each, go a long way if somebody just wants to listen to those in building the brain cells for how to understand how the forgiveness process is done, and that's the core tool that we teach.
That's fabulous. Yes, that's really great. It's great. I love it that your material's being moved to another location where people can access it really well. I think the process of, the forgiveness process itself, and realizing that we need to shift the coding inside of ourselves, the shadows, the ancient history that we're carrying around from our generations.
Yes.
And then the step outside of that, which is grasping that it's possible that my world could be reflecting that information back to me. And it's like I said, I called into, I had a relationship end in 2011, so that's 12 years ago. And I remember calling in and saying, come on, it's got to be at least partly that other person's fault. And so we had numerous discussions back then that really helped me get through that process and realize that it really wasn't the other person's fault. But I don't know if you have anybody else in queue waiting, but I'd love it if you could address that for a second, that idea of, oh, come on, it's got to be at least partly their fault. They're bad people. They did something. They took something away from me. They did something to me. And yet bridging that, which is what I do a lot of in my books, is that we can grasp that the world is mirroring to us our own data. That's all it can do. But could you address that for a second?
Yeah, well, you'll notice at the top of the reality management tool, it says no fault empowerment. And we're not interested in establishing whose fault anything is. That and $5 will maybe get you a cup of coffee somewhere that's cheap by establishing fault. But what we're looking to do is establish responsibility. And most people, when they hear the word responsibility, and they, I say, well, you're responsible for what shows up in your life. Their reply is, well, wait a minute, you don't understand. It's not my fault. You're saying I'm to blame? No, there's nothing in the word responsibility about blame or fault. Well, you mean I'm the guilty part? Nothing about guilt and responsibility. It's just that this is a participatory world. We take part in it. We are participants in how the world unfolds around us. And when we recognize
Michael, are you
okay,
there?
I'm back. My phone got cut off.
Good.
Technology.
Oh, good. I thought I got bumped, but I'm glad you're still there.
No,
Yay.
it was me. So what we're looking to do is to get the people to understand that this is a participatory world. And, it's like, if you've been through it 87 different times with 42 different people, sooner or later you've got to admit that maybe you're involved since you've been there every time it's happened, and you're the only one that's been there. And it really comes down to, my take is one of the greatest atrocities that has been done to us as human beings down through the ages is that we've had hidden from us the fact that we are by nature creators. You and I are creative beings. And of course, everybody loves that idea when the creation's going well. But when the creation's not going so well, doesn't everybody know whose fault it is? And it's always them. If only they'd be different. But again, notice every time it's happening, you've been there. Does that mean it's your fault? No. Does that mean it's your responsibility? Yes. You are the common factor in everything that happens in your life. And because we live in a world of energy, one of the first things that happens, let's say, of course, a lot of times these conflicts are around relationships. And people say, well, I just got out of this relationship and I'm ready for a new relationship, but I don't ever want to have anybody that's going to rip me off like that again. I never want to be in another relationship where people will yell at me. And boy, I'll never be with somebody who takes advantage of me again. And and they got a whole list about what it is that they don't want. And then they wonder why 6 months later they're living with it. They don't understand that we live in an energetic, creative world, and all we have to do is engage in an energy to produce the result. And the more we don't want a result, the more we are focused on the result we don't want, the faster it comes to us. So instead of, gee, I don't want somebody who will take advantage of me like that again, then what one moves in the direction of, puts on their relationship list is, I would really like to be with somebody who appreciates my fairness and is fair with me. Well, you just created a whole new relationship dynamic, as opposed to, I don't want anybody who will ever take advantage of me again.
Right.
I want someone who's going to speak to me, and I'm committed to doing it too, going to speak to me lovingly, gently, and respectfully. Now you just set up an energetic pattern for a loving, gentle, respectful relationship. And so words, if you go back into the ancient scriptures, they talk about how the power of life and death is in our words. Literally, energetically, we organize our world through the words that we use. And if the speech that we hear most as children is about how not to do things and how bad we are and how wrong it is and how the problem is with your mother or your father or the government or the guy down the block, if everybody else is the problem, then that mind, taking on those words, ends up becoming another generation of creating the same old family dynamic of what isn't wanted. And so going in and correcting that whole process is key to doing it. And it's a combination of the constructive motion toward, in our Healing Through Relationships workshop, we offer a tool called My Commitment, and it starts out, I promise to trust you enough to tell you the truth and treat you lovingly, gently, and with respect. It goes on from there. If you go in and they're the only words that cross your mind about relationship, anybody who wants to play the manipulation or the crazy game is not even going to have the slightest attraction to you. There's no energy, there's no resonance there. And so each workshop that we do has a different tool for how to change the dynamic of the past generations and bring to fruition a really, truly conscious, creative life, which is what we all deserve. That would be my take.
Yes, and I can highly recommend those various workshops on the different topics. And those still going to be, those will be available on your website and some bits and pieces of them.
Yeah, we have a catalog. Right, we have a catalog, and there are some several videos in our catalog that are paid videos. Again, our website has many videos. We have at this point, we did 2 back-to-back codependence to independence communication practicum intensives. And so we have available a self-study intensive. It's actually 89 hours of video work where we cover why is this happening to me again, healing through relationships, communication, did you hear what I think I said, mind shifters and still point breathing. So that's available as a self-study. It includes a personal code evaluation that really is, it's like kind of the gold standard of psychological testing that shows people where their blocks are and where their work is. So that's all part of that intensive, and people can do that whole self-study for $600. We're not doing one-on-one, we're not doing Heartland intensives right now, but I have started recently to do one-on-one personal intensives with people, where people come to Bristol, Virginia, where I live, they get themselves a hotel room, and we do anywhere from 3 to 6 days of intense personal work. So that's another way to approach it if somebody's ready to take things to the next level. And it's moving into, I combine it with some hands-on work and moving beyond the still point process, which you've done, into a new level of still point that I'm referring to as quantum still point, where it just moves everything into a whole different arena. So there's some of the offerings that are out there.
Very nice.
We've been talking about perhaps...
Go ahead.
We've been talking about perhaps doing a local intensive here. There's a facility that we've used about 15 or 20 minutes up the road, and we may do something there in the way of either why is this happening to me again, or teacher training, or codependence. I'm not sure. Depends what requests look like. But we may be doing another intensive at that point. But otherwise, the only real intensive available is that one-on-one personal 3 to 6 day.
Nice. And let me just say, with everything that you just said, is this is really, I mean, as I've heard you say, and correct me if I don't say it quite right, but if we had gotten this teaching 2,000 years ago, the world would be in a very different place. And because we didn't get the teaching, we didn't get what Yeshua was saying 2,000 years ago, here we are in the blame, judgment, control culture.
Right.
And
yes.
It's it takes a commitment, it takes dedication, I call this our walk of mastery today, is to begin turning this information, this data, this system around inside ourselves and begin operating from a core of true human love, and operating from that core where we cancel, release, and let go our old data, so that we really can live a different kind of life. And it could happen in 5 minutes, but for a lot of us it takes the commitment to be in there, to keep listening to like the videos and the audios you've put out, to do the work on the worksheets, to really change that course of our reality.
You go back to, you listen to Yeshua, and he says his work is only for those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And I think we're fairly safe at assuming that, probably most everybody in his audience had what we call physical eyes and ears. So he wasn't talking about that. He was saying that we have to have the brain cells to correctly interpret what's being said. If I have the brain cells for one meaning, and Yeshua's words are about something else, then I'll never hear what it is that he's saying. And unfortunately, if the man Yeshua today sat in most centers of what we might call churchianity, he'd say, that's all Greek to me, because so much has been lost. And not that there aren't incredible, wonderful people, doing just grand and powerful service in the world, but even people who are doing a really powerful service, if they haven't got the brain cells to recognize that the internal work has to be done, they'll do their service, but the rage, the pain, the depression, the trauma is still there. And the whole work of Yeshua is removing rage and pain and trauma and showing up in our lives, showing up in our world truly as human beings. And if you hold a newborn child, you get to tap into exactly what a human being is. And it's not what most people are expressing in the world today, unfortunately.
Right. Yep. Beautiful. One other thought, just question. I know that some of the people that I speak with, I think a lot of people are struggling economically right now. And, and it's easy to look at the outer and go, man, the outer is a mess. But how can we approach that from this internal clearing place?
Well, if I come from generations of, we Smiths or we Joneses, we just never have enough money to pay our bills, then I'm a walking energy field that pushes away abundance. My take is, as energetic beings, we are designed and are naturally abundant without effort. But when we start playing the effort game, I have to struggle, I have to fight to get it, then we push away that which we're saying that we want. Yeshua used an example, look at the lilies of the field. They don't struggle to dress themselves. Look at them. You don't have to do that. And if you're struggling, it's because there's some inner work that needs to be done. You have to start to look at your own creative process, because if you come from a family system that says, well, we're always broke, somebody who's coming into your space with money in their hand to give you delightfully and joyfully will bounce into that wall of, oh, I have to stay in poverty, and they'll turn around and go the other way. That's how the energy field works. So the principle can be applied anywhere. If I go, it's interesting, in the Aramaic language, the word manifest. We hear people talking about manifesting money and manifesting new cars and manifesting new houses. But in Aramaic, a more proper word there, actually a more proper word is obvious. Manifest is obvious. So if it's obvious to you, to a person, that they live in poverty, then they will manifest living in poverty. If it's obvious that no matter what happens, I always come out smelling like a rose, then no matter what happens, one is always going to come out smelling like a rose. So manifest is that which is obvious. And if you go to the opening words in the book of John, where we're told, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh. In Aramaic, what it says is, in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. So if I engage in a packet of mind energy, and speak in terms of quantum physics now, if I engage in a packet of mind energy, then I'm going to reproduce that mind energy in what is obvious to me is what will be manifest for me.
Right. And I find over the years that the more conscious I become and the more aware I become and the more aware I know, I always say I can't get away with anything, because the second I'm off a little bit, there it is coming up in my face. And
life shows up.
Yeah.
Life,
and I think when
life is relentless. It's beautiful.
Right. It's amazing. The flow of creation that is there.
There's an interesting quote I came across recently. Actually, Jeannie found this quote. I had been looking for one, and she went looking, and she found this. And this is, and I know that you're into quantum physics, but Max Planck, who won the Nobel Prize for putting out the theory of quantum physics, says this: in all my research, I have never come across matter. To me, the term matter implies a bundle of energy which is given form by an intelligent spirit. As a man who's devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you, as a result of my research about atoms, this much: there is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom into vibration, which holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. The opening words in the book of John: in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. We are the intelligent force, and whatever is obvious to our minds is what we energetically hold together and bring together in our world. It's called creatorship. And until we can own that, and until we can access the unconscious or the hidden parts of our minds, you go back again to the scriptures, they say, take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. And that heart, in our modern updated language, would be the unconscious. What's going on in your unconscious? Again, going back to Carl Jung. Until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate.
That is very good. Michael, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time with me today, and very elucidating, uplifting, encouraging, inspiring, and giving us good direction as to how to see a path to move ahead.
Honored and delighted, and it was a great review, I think.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And
I'll say hi
Michelle's
to
still there.
Michele.
Michele, do you have anything to share at this moment?
Ted, it was really nice hearing your voice today. Thank you for calling and prompting. And I wanted to hear a little bit about her work on her books. Maybe you're going to have to call back and listen on updates that we're doing to revise your 21st century superhuman series.
Thanks. Yeah,
Cool.
and I think we should do this more often. It's really good. I'm very excited about it, and we'll catch up. Maybe I'll publish this as one of my podcasts too. Pull the sound if that's all right with you, and we can
Go for it.
do a few
Absolutely.
here and there.
Take anything we've got. Yeah.
Right.
And we're here 5 days a week. Been doing it now 14 years every day. I think we maybe missed 3 days or 5 days in 14 years. So we'll be here tomorrow and so come and play anytime.
All right.
Michael,
Will do. And so much love to you guys.
bye, kiddo.
All right. Lots of love and blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
I want to invite area code 206 to call back. They had their hand up waiting in queue, so hopefully they'll join us tomorrow.
Our apology, we're down to the last few seconds, but we will be back tomorrow, same time, same station. Thanks for joining us. Make the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.